If you struggle losing weight, this video is for you. In this video, I'm going to go through step by step exactly how you can lose weight, backed up by the actual nutritional science behind this topic. And I'll be teaching you exactly how you can lose specifically fat whilst maintaining or even increasing your muscle mass. A disclaimer in this video is that this video is a summary of the YouTube video Fat Chance 2.0 on YouTube and Sugar the Bitter Truth on YouTube. So go check that out if you want to see the full form version. Before I tell you exactly how you can lose weight, I want to tell you a bit about me. Quite some time ago, I had a health checkup service by the NHS, which is like the UK's health service, and they checked my height and weight and saw if I was normal weight or not. When the results for this checkup came back, I found out that I was very, very overweight, and the NHS provided a letter to show this. This is a picture of me when I was fat. The doctors at the NHS also told me that if I don't start to lose weight, I will develop some serious health conditions in the future. After hearing this information, I devised a plan. I was going to do anything I could to lose this weight. So I started running miles and miles and miles. But this didn't actually have any effect, and it just ended up in me looking really skinny fat with about the same amount of fat on my body. Here is another picture of when I started running. When I was doing this, I didn't actually eat anything because I thought that this would help me lose fat faster. But this nearly led to me developing an ED, an eating disorder. And this just created a massive calorie deficit where I was losing weight, not fat. And this is exactly the video that I needed at that point in time. This video will show you exactly how to lose fat and not weight, and how to not develop an ED whilst also eating relatively healthy and losing fat really quickly. Now this video is sectioned in 3 main categories. And when I'm watching YouTube videos, I normally skip around, but this is a video that you need to watch in order for you to actually understand all the information that you need to lose weight. And this brings me on to the first section of this video, quality versus quantity. We need to make it clear that we're interested in losing fat and not weight. See, your weight is just something you can track on your weighing scales, but that's not what we want to lose. When we're losing fat, this makes us look better, but the weight includes stuff like body water and muscle that you don't really want to lose. Now, when talking about weight loss, we always assume that we're going to be hungry all day on, and we're going to be really, really tired all day. But this isn't necessarily the case. See, science has shown us that it isn't really the quantity of food that we need to reduce in order to lose fat. And it's really the quality of foods that we eat that we really need to change in order to lose fat. This just means that your past conditioning that you need to be really hungry when losing fat is kind of wrong, because it's the quality of food that we need to change. For example, if person A just eats, let's say 5 scoops of ice cream a day, and another person B eats a very healthy diet in a day, person B is actually going to lose more fat than person A, even though person A is eating less food and eating less quantity than person B. The reason for this fat gain or loss is all explained through hormones in our body. Now, I know that this section of the video may sound a little bit complicated when you watch through it, but really try to watch through it and understand what I'm saying, because this is life-changing advice. In our body, there are 3 main hormones that control fat loss and weight loss. These are insulin, leptin, and ghrelin. Let's go over them one by one. Leptin is a hormone that controls when we're feeling full. For example, in a normal healthy person's body, their leptin levels are normal. This means that when they're feeling full, when they're eating food, their leptin levels just tells their body to stop eating, and they do stop eating. This is why they don't gain weight. However, with an overweight person or a very obese person, their leptin levels are very low. This means that they can't control when to stop eating, and their body doesn't tell them that they're full. The easiest way to think of leptin is like a barrier in the brain that tells it to stop eating at any certain point. However, when I was talking about these overweight or obese people having low levels of leptin, this is due to a high level of insulin. See, this is a very important fact, that insulin stops or inhibits the leptin levels from rising. This means that if you eat more insulin, or your body contains more insulin, your leptin levels will decrease. So in summary, if your insulin levels are higher, this just means that your leptin levels will drop down, and your body won't know when it should stop eating, and you'll just gain more fat. So what the TLDR of all of this is just eat a lesser amount of foods that cause a reduced level of insulin in your body, so your leptin levels can increase and you know when to feel full. So this brings me on to my next question. What foods actually cause an increase or a high spike in insulin? Foods that have something called a high glycemic load cause a very high spike in insulin. Now, I know that this may sound really sciencey or very complicated, but basically the foods that cause a high glycemic load are foods that are very, very processed or have a very high amount of refined sugar. This includes stuff like chocolate bar, which is really, really high in sugar and is very, very processed. I'll put up a list on screen of foods that have a high glycemic load here. Now, what we want to do is reduce the amount of foods that we eat with a high glycemic load and increase the amount of foods that we eat with a low glycemic load. This just means that it triggers less insulin to be spiked in our body, which causes less fat to be stored. Foods that have a low glycemic load are foods that just aren't processed as much, such as beans or eggs, that don't really have a high amount of refined sugar and aren't really processed in factories as much. If you want to just have a general understanding of what foods have a low glycemic load, just look at foods with literally one ingredient. For example, nuts. Nuts don't have any other ingredients except nuts, and this means that it has a low glycemic load in general. I know that there are many exceptions to this rule, but if you just stick to eating foods that have one ingredient in them that you know of, you're going to have a very low glycemic load entering your body, and you're going to have a lower amount of insulin spiked in your body. So hopefully after this kind of long explanation of how insulin and leptin work, you kind of understand how the hormones have an effect on how fat is stored in the body, and you want to eat an increase in the foods with a low glycemic load and decrease the amount of foods with a high glycemic load. This brings me on to the second section of this video, which is involving mindset, or how you perceive food. See, throughout my life personally, I've always seen food as something to indulge in, or something as a treat. But this is something we need to shift away from. See, we need to see foods as less of a treat, or less as something to indulge in, and more of something that is just nutritious and fulfilling. Think about food like pooping. You don't really crave to go poop, but it's something that you need to do, and it's something necessary for your survival. And if you have this mindset shift of viewing food as something that you don't indulge in, but rather something that you just have to get out of the way, and it's something that is just nutritious, you're gonna find losing fat a lot easier. Honestly, this is a very hard thing to do, and I'm currently trying to do this as well. And honestly, it's kind of hard to have this mindset shift from viewing food as something to indulge in to something that is just nutritious and fulfilling. So hopefully at this point in the video, you now know how you should view food, and you now know the mindset shift that you need to have. You should also know the hormones that interact in your body to store and lose fat, and how insulin and leptin work together. This brings me on to the third section of this video, which is routine and consistency. The easiest way to bring this new information into your routine and schedule is by doing something called intermittent fasting. This just means that you're not eating the entire day, and you're just eating in a selected eating window throughout the day. And for the rest of the day, you stay in something called a fasted state, where you're not eating anything with any calories. You're just eating 0-calorie sort of drinks such as green tea or water or black coffee. Not only does this make it easier to not snack on random treats, it also has very good side effects that are mentioned in a YouTube channel called Dr. Eric Berg, which I'll link down below. And he makes really good videos on how intermittent fasting really helps your body's processes. Because think about it, in the olden times, we wouldn't eat all day long. We would really have one meal or 1 or 2 meals a day at the end of the day when the hunters got back the meat from their hunting, and everyone feasted around that. I do this through 8 AM to 4 PM being my eating window, and the rest of the day just being in a fasted state. Now, you may think that intermittent fasting won't work for you, because you'll feel too hungry or it's not really practical. But this brings me on to my third hormone that I didn't mention beforehand, called ghrelin. See, ghrelin works in cycles throughout the day, and it just causes hunger to increase and decrease in regular cycles. A common misconception about hunger is that it's linear through time. This means that people think that hunger increases like this through time. But that's not true. Ghrelin doesn't really care if you've eaten or not. It just increases at the time you normally eat, and then it decreases later. This hormone ghrelin not only explains why people can go as much as 72 hours without eating one meal, but it also explains why obese people and fat people still feel hungry after a big meal. I also track my calories in my food with an app called MyFitnessPal. Now, this isn't really compulsory. You'll still lose fat by following the 3 main sections in this video, but I just like to keep the amount of food quantified in an app. If you want to use this app, MyFitnessPal, it's on the App Store or Google Play. You should just go download it. It's really convenient. Overall, if you just apply these 3 main sections of food, which is quality over quantity, mindset shift, and routine and consistency, I guarantee you that you'll lose fat in no time, and you'll retain most of your muscle. This also brings me on to the 4th bonus section of this video, which is exercise. Whilst diet is 100% more important than exercising, I still recommend you to do some form of physical activity in the day, such as calisthenics or weight training or even running. I personally do something called resistance training, which is weightlifting, but you can do something such as rowing or swimming. That works fine as well. One thing I will say, however, is if you do resistance training such as calisthenics or weightlifting, the amount of calories and energy that your body burns in a day increases, So that's just something I recommend you to do. If you can't do calisthenics or weight training, I just recommend you to do something as simple as walking 10,000 steps a day, which will help you lose fat faster. And also tracking steps is quite easy with the modern phones and technology that we have today. The last and final point I want to make about this topic is patience. I know that you probably don't like the way that your body looks right now. If you just stick to these 3 sections and continuously do them, you're going to start losing fat in no time, and you will transform your life. I guarantee you that you'll lose fat, but the journey of this fat loss will fluctuate massively, and sometimes you're going to lose weight, you're going to gain weight, but just stay consistent and you will see results. I hope you're now equipped with all the information that you need to lose fat and keep it off in the future. If you like this video, please click the like button, and if you want to see more of the same sort of videos, click the subscribe button. Thank you for watching.